all new. AM1150WTMP.com.
Alrighty. It's that time again, folks. The herd is here.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna do what we do. Enlighten your day.
Live.
Make your Saturday afternoon better than it could have ever possibly have been. Just with a little ray of sunshine and some information.
Truth.
Now, the show today is gonna be a little, I would say, sensitive.
Eddie.
Because we're not gonna tackle the normal type of things that we do. We're gonna tackle something that's a little bit broader, so we can kind of see at some point in time. You have to kind of take a snapshot of where you're at, kind of look back to where you've been, and then formulate. Like I heard somebody say earlier, a process or a strategic plan of how you gonna go where you want to go, how you gonna get there. So anyway, I'm gonna get the show started. Then we're gonna move on with the conversation. And I was telling somebody earlier about the show we did last week. We started talking about economics and dollars and cents and how that how some of that stuff works. And I said it's funny because at the time I was saying it, we hadn't had one black person call. Period. Had about 5 white folks. And then Al Lee called, and that was it for the day for us black folks participating in the conversation involving finance and economics and the important stuff to the community. And I wasn't shocked, nor was I surprised, but I just wish. Because the 4 or 5 white folks that called all had good input.
They did.
Talking about experiences and
bull.
stuff they've done and where they've been and kind of how they got to where they are, and from our side of the ledger, there was pretty much no one. I mean, Al's a good guy and everything, but he's not the one who calls every week when we're talking about all this other stuff. I'm just saying. So anyway, today we got a different kind of show. I hope you like it. I hope you like where it's going. I know you're not gonna like where it's coming from, because it ain't good information about how bad it was. But we're gonna just say what it was, because a lot of you folks don't know. And at the end of the day, sometimes say you don't know what you don't know. So you take this and add it to your vocabulary, add it to your knowledge base, and if some point in time you need to use it, it'll be there. So anyway, this is Porch Talk Radio. I'm your host, Eddie Adams Jr., co-host Gabriel Phillips,
Live.
right in the co-chair seat, and longtime partner, engineer, back behind the scenes, man, Tim Horton. So, if you want to call in during the show, call in. Number is 813-251-9867, 813-251-9867. If you want to call me off the air, anytime other than in the next hour, my cell phone number is 813-12. Text me, email me, Eddie, EDDIE, at porchtalkradio.com. Okay. It's interesting, the predicament that black folks all over the country kind of find themselves in. So I'm not just talking about the local black community. I'm talking about the national black community. And the fact that we as a people have went through so much. And if you ever look at it, we are a very resilient people.
Mm-hmm.
I know, some of you may think I'm playing with words if you don't know what resilient means. So I went to the dictionary.
Oh boy.
Of Googleology.
Mm-hmm. The god of Google.
Yeah, for the god of Google, but it's the same. And I went to the old encyclopedia of the dictionary of all the things, because resilient been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Resilient is an adverb, and it's of a people, person, or animal able to withstand or recover quickly from difficult situations. Or, that's number one. Number two, or of a substance, or an object, able to recoil or spring back into shape after bending, stretching, or being decompressed. Now, not a lot of people nowadays, every blue moon, you may hear people talking about the transatlantic slave trade. And a lot of people kind of think they know what was happening or what it was all about, but not many people actually know. Because it's kind of like some of these things that happened when they got rid of the Black Wall Street and Rosewood and a couple of other towns where even the local people, I heard people talking about, well, we didn't know, and they were born and raised 50 miles, from Toledo, Ohio. And it wasn't in the books, and nobody talked about it. The blacks didn't talk about it. The whites didn't talk about it. Well, the transatlantic slave trade. A picture popped up on my computer a couple weeks ago, and it was so disheartening and dehumanizing to me. I was like, how in the hell can anybody survive that type of treatment? And just for the record, over 2 million Africans chose to not come to America. Be it jumping off the ship, being it, committing suicide, or just dying on the ship because of disease and something they call scurvy and other disease. Well, let me kind of describe a situation for you.
You're the medical personnel.
All right. Okay. They would pile. Sometimes some of these ships took a week to board. That means they're out in the fields gathering up slaves, and got slaves on this camp. They put a few on the ship, and then they go get a few more, put a few on the ship. So these folks are on the ship. They're not on the land, they're on the ship. Then when they finally get the ship full, now imagine this. You got a space. I'm going to describe to you a three-dimensional space inside a ship. 4 feet tall. 4 feet tall.
So it's only for short people then?
No. I mean, 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet by 5 or 6 feet. Depends on whether they put you on the front or the back. They got shelves.
Hmm.
And because again, they're maximizing the cargo.
Yeah.
So, having regular ships, everybody walking around, doing their thing.
Like cruise ships.
Eating, sleeping.
It wasn't like cruise ships, you're saying.
All that kind of stuff. So what they did, the whole entire inside body of the ship got 4 or 5 shelves no taller than 4 feet tall. So what they were doing, they were chaining all of these. Oh, I forgot some very important detail. When you came on the ship, everybody, men, women, and children, and slaves was captured at 16 and above. Technically, you had to be 16 years old, before they put you on the ship and call you a slave.
I'm sure there's nobody checking the IDs.
No, and they may have had some younger children and stuff.
They were just tall.
But technically, the men and the women were stripped butt naked.
Mm-hmm.
All of your hair, men and women, was cut off.
Mm-hmm.
They preparing you for this voyage. When they took all the men below, they literally chain you laying down in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And these are wood ships. They let you up once a day. In which they would I guess they did it by rows or ranks or some kind of how, where you would go up and get some air, get some food. They fed you once a day, mostly corn, beans. Let's see what this other thing. What was the diet? The diet. And this for the whole trip. Every day they got these routines down, and so they made it so that here's the beans, corn, yams, rice, and palm oil and fresh water. So that was your diet, some shape, some form of fashion, for the entire trip.
No chicken tenders?
The trip usually took, the shortest trip was 35 days.
Woo!
The longest trips could be 90 days.
So they had exercise and shower every day.
See, you're thinking the wrong way.
It's like a cruise ship.
No. You're thinking the wrong way. Once they lock you in for the day, these are wood barracks, wood shelves that you're chained to the next 2 or 3 people next to you, arms and legs. You're chained to. You didn't get a chance to go to the bathroom. You did it right there. There's probably 2 or 3 people above you, 2 or 3 people below you. I feel sorry for the guy on the bottom shelf, because this is wood. So you did your bowel movements. You did number 1 and number 2. They didn't come in every day and flush it down, wash it down with salt water. You left and you went back to the same place you left. It smelled to the point to where...
Is this are you trying to explain scurvy still? I'm trying to get scurvy.
Google it. The atmosphere, and what they say when they built the ships to be slave ships, they put extra portholes, those round holes on the side of the ship, so that they could get some air circulating, so that some of this smell that was cumulative could could it would never it was always funky. I mean, think about it. You probably got 200 or 300 people doing number one and number two all day long in the exact same place. They got up once a day, went to the top of the deck for some exercise, to eat, get some water, and then go back. I mean, that was they couldn't just let you lay in it for 90 days straight. If they could, they would. Because so many folks were dying on this voyage. Over 2 million people died. Not from just jumping overboard. If you were too much of a troublemaker, as they say, in some of these papers that I was reading, it was easier for the captain to make you shark bait. Because they had no, let me say it like this. If you got sick on the ship, they would throw you over. Because the captains only got paid for live slaves delivered. So if you was, it didn't do them no good if you died, and it didn't do the captain any good if you was a troublemaker. So you just made his heart. These ships was always understaffed for the crew was concerned. I guess they had French benefits, like they could rape and pillage and
the least funky ones
to take advantage of all the females that they wanted to, because what they did was they had an order to the slave ships. The men was on one end of the ship, the women were on the other end of the ship, and they had barriers between the two. But the crewmen, all the women was already naked, so young, old, toothless, the whole 9 yards. And some of these were sailors. So this is a sea voyage.
So they probably smell just as nice.
And I guess they had they're on the open sea, so I'm quite sure they had a way to cleanse needed if it was needed.
Rain.
Between the rain and the salt water and everything else, if they wanted you to take a bath, it was available. But it served them no purpose to bathe the men. So now this was just the beginning of the historical introduction of African slaves to the American system of slavery. And a lot of folks don't realize out of millions of slaves that left the coast of Africa, the 2 million that didn't quite make it, only less than 350 million slaves in the United States actually came from Africa. Most of those other people went to South America. They went to the islands, all up and down the coast. Anywhere, other than Africa, it's a lot of Jamaicans, a lot of folks in Freeport. It's a lot of South Americans that start out as Africans, especially in Brazil and some of those other places in South America. So probably 4 million people left Africa. 2 million died. 350,000 ended up in the continental United States, and the rest of them
just everywhere else,
up and down the coast.
Haiti's got a bunch of them, and so does DR.
Yeah, everybody else got a bunch of them. See, so the ones that survived, the ones that are here, the ordeal called slavery. A lot of black folks have heard about it. They've seen stories about it. They've read about it. The whole process was very dehumanizing. And I say, we're resilient people because I kind of hear what's going on now and the SHTT that people complain about
Look at Eddie.
is it you can't it may have taken a couple of 100 years to get to this point, but the fact that people went through this, that ain't counting all the slave whippings and lynchings and cutting off your feet and cutting off your toes and having your whole back full of whip lashes cut inches deep into your skin and scarring up and all this other stuff. And I don't know how many of you folks have actually heard the story of the bulls, and one of the reasons a lot of good old white boys, still call young black males bulls, because they literally treated certain young black males as bulls. That was their job. They didn't work the field. Their job and their responsibility was to travel from plantation to plantation. I'm quite sure they had males on all the plantations. But they wanted good, strong, young black folks to work their farms. So it's kind of like bulls, Nowadays, they have, if you got a good prize bull, you can rent him out and get money for him, because a lot of herds got a couple of bulls, and that bull genes is pretty much been the same for the last 2 or 3 generations. Everybody in the pen is related to them. That make for a weak gene pool. So they did people the same way. So they had some prize black bulls, and they literally would send them from plantation to plantation for a fee. Of course, the master got the fee. And I was watching a story on TV, and they was talking about great grandfather was such a person, and they were talking about his children, and they had did one of them lineage things where they followed the lineage and found out that this person had 30 kids, which means 30 kids had his genes,
Right.
but none of them had his name or all that other stuff. But they went through and found out, okay, these people are all related to us, because in the olden days, like male prostitute or something, only thing he didn't get paid. He didn't get paid, but that was the purpose he served. Yep. Right. Each plantation had a shack, and they would send up the young, fertile, black females, and they had people who was responsible for keeping up with when they was fertile, when they wasn't fertile, and he would pop through there when they was, and go to the next farm, and go to the next farm, and go to the next farm. So it was a lot of stuff, that if you would see it and hear about it, it would make you cry. It was less than human, and they did not consider you to be human. You would know better than a cow or a sheep. Depends on what part of the country you was in, what the livestock was. But you were livestock. You were chattel. And because you were chattel, the rules of engagement changed. But we endured all of that stuff, all that dehumanizing stuff. And like I say, resilient. We bounced back from that. We still fit, healthy population. You know what it did, and some folks may get mad when I say this.
Come on, Eddie.
Okay, I see. We got a caller. Let me finish this statement. That's why we run faster, jump higher, and physical specimen, because for years, we was no different than livestock. We were bred to be better. But what they didn't count on was the intelligence. We are just as smart as any other people on this planet who did not go through this process. Welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. I know this may not be a conversation for everybody, but we got to have it, so we're having it. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Okay. The worst that I had ever heard before was a serial killer in New Orleans. A woman, she had slaves in New Orleans. She was from France, and she was rich, and she was a serial killer. She was cutting off the head of her slaves and putting them in a room and putting them on a stick. And how they actually caught her, if you want to catch her, is that they had heard about the things she was doing. They took away her slaves. New Orleans took away her slaves. She sent her cousin, and they put them on auction. She sent her cousin to get the slaves back. He got them all back in auction, and they came right back to her. And how they actually caught her, she pushed one of the 12-year-old girls off a 3-story building, her home. She pushed her off the top of the roof, and so all the people in New Orleans were in her neighborhood came to catch her, to get her. She escaped and went back to France, and they never caught her. Story.
Wow.
And you can look it up if you put those little things I said in there, and they'll tell you her name. I can't remember her name. True story. And she was a serial killer. And when they broke into her house after she ran away, this is when they found 20, 30, 40 African slave heads on sticks in a room.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of atrocities that have went on to our people. And again, I'm going to use the word, we are very resilient. We got another caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
My name is James Thompson, and I'm calling from Riverview, Florida. And I like to listen to you because you're very knowledgeable. But I also read about what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
And it happened after slavery. They started breeding her from plantation to plantation.
Yes.
What are you talking about, the bulls?
Yes, sir.
And in addition to that, they use us as fighters between plantation and the one that killed the other slave, gets the glory and the money, and they didn't box. They actually killed the other slave using all kind of tactics. So, you're very, very knowledgeable, and I thought I was the only one that took the time to read about some of the terrible things that men went through.
Yes,
I know
sir.
women went through stages,
Right.
but not like the men.
Not like the man.
Because most of the men were tortured and all kinds of things. And I don't know if you know about the bowling, where they would dig a hole and leave our head uncovered.
Yep.
And use us as a bowling ball,
Yep.
a bowling pin.
Yeah. I actually saw a story about the fights, and they would fight to the death, literally with no
Correct.
with no rules. You go in,
Right.
and however you kill the other slave, they all bets, and then the best ones travel. They took you all over the South as a black fighter, and all you did was kill other black men.
Right. And I'm going to let somebody else talk. But if you want to really know about some of those things, read the series book called Mandingo. And it explains, it's about 10 books and they had different mandingos. One, once they killed one, they would breed another one.
Yeah.
And it would be his son or whatever what is called mandingo.
Yes, sir. And I actually saw some of that this morning when I was doing some of my research. And it is so much stuff. I could probably talk about this for the rest of the year and never talk
Right.
about the same topic twice. But I just wanted to bring my people into enlightenment as to some of the stuff that we've already endured. So when I hear them crying about stuff nowadays,
That's going on now.
yeah,
Nothing is going on now like it was years ago.
right,
We have an opportunity to get ahead if we teach our children. If every parent took care of their children, we wouldn't be going through what we're going through. But unfortunately, with the way the scenario is, with a lot of men in prison and a lot of women having 6 and 7 babies, and once the boys get 13, 14 years old, they can't control them. They're in these gangs. So we're our own worst enemy. Sometimes we always want to blame the man.
yeah.
Can't blame everything.
And I say that all the time. We are our own worst enemy. The issue.
That's right.
Yeah, I said a couple weeks ago. I say first of all, we got to take into consideration black young men kill more black young men than the police and everybody else out there. So first of all, we kill more of us than anybody else do. Then we the leading
Right.
product of the prison system. So all them who are not getting killed go to jail. And of the ones that's actually left, they don't want to be men, they rather be women. The little boys rather be little girls. So that bodes real bad for the black population.
Right, and that's another story. These poor black women don't have a choice of men, so they go to the white man. I don't blame them. Half my friends, daughters are marrying white men.
Thank you, my brother.
The
Thank
black
you,
man
thank,
not.
thank you for calling.
Good call,
we
sir.
appreciate it. We appreciate it. And that's again. I'm not using. Thank you for the call. I'm not using this to put the race of people down. I'm using this to tell you how much you've been through, and if you do a survey, nationally, not just Tampa Bay, St. Pete, Clearwater, the surrounding area. I'm talking about look at it all over. That resiliency is alive and well today. And the potential is there. I'm just I when I look at all this stuff, it's heartbreaking, but we are still here. None of that stuff broke us. Kunta Kinte.
Oh boy. I knew you were going to talk about that. The roots.
Yeah, that whole thing. Kunta Kinte. Your name Toby. No, Kunta Kinte. See, it's something about that whole scenario of us as a people. If we ever can stop fussing and fighting among ourselves, our potential to do good for all of us is unlimited. We got another caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Hello, how you doing this evening? This is Yvette Lewis, president of the NAACP.
Yes, ma'am.
Hillsborough County Branch.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm calling because what you laid out was some information that our students need to be learning and understanding of how did we get here and that part of history that is so important to the African American people and also to all the other people in here in the United States. This is why we need critical race theory, because some of the information you were giving out, it needs to be explained in more detail.
Yeah.
It needs to be where it laid out where it is a lesson plan, and then also too, this is not a laughing matter.
No.
The commentary that was coming in from Gabriel, As an African American person, I take offense to that. Okay? Because to me, you were talking about a serious issue of where African American people came from and how did we get here. It was not, there was no need for the little side commentary remarks from Gable. There are some issues that are really important that really need to be learned about. So I'm calling to say critical race theory, and you showed me that there is definitely a need. So what I would like to do is put the challenge out there to you. Take this back to your party and educate them and let them know that there is a need to teach critical race theory because if you don't know where you come from, you sure don't know where you're going.
Thank you,
And
Madam President.
Thank
And one thing that I have done, you know, because I know that most white folks don't know what critical race theory actually is, and I actually had 2 or 3 years in private with Jeff Akins, who's the past superintendent of Hillsborough County Schools, to try to get Black history, which which everybody think critical race theory and Black history are the same thing. They are not. Critical race theory is something white folks has labeled as Black history, but it's not,
No.
because they think it's some kind of talk, some kind of anti-American slang, something that they got from Black Lives Matter, and folks who understand Black Lives Matter is really not black, as a group
They're
of
actually
folks,
black.
and opportunity and information being provided. But every time it's ever come up in any conversation I have ever had with any of them, it's important because what it actually explains, and this point I had not got to yet, and I know we got a call, but I'm going to finish this thought, is that the money, the trillions of dollars, not millions, not billions, but the trillions of dollars that have been accumulated by white citizens in this country off the blood, sweat, tears, broken bones, anguish of Black folks cannot be measured. I have people who I heard say, well, I never owned a slave. You may not have owned a slave, but I got that. But I'm gonna tell you for sure, you are spending the dollars today that was made back then. That's the part where it loses, and folks wanna get amnesia. They don't tell you that part. You are still spending the dollars that was made, because that's what money does. Money accumulates and it multiplies. We got a new caller. Caller, thank you for that call, Yvette. Welcome to Porch Talk Radio this Saturday afternoon. Next caller, who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Eddie, how you doing? Charles Cooper, how you doing this?
I'm doing well, my brother. How about yourself?
Good, good. Ed, I didn't hear all your program, but I like what I heard. Listen here, whether they teach critical or race theory or not, listen here, teach your children Black history.
Right.
Teach your children who they are, and then they'll know who they are. When we was coming up, they taught us who we are. You know, we didn't need critical theory. Listen here, because they're gonna fight you with that anyway. Black folk need to get a economical and a moral foundation. And listen here, white folk will get up off you. That's right. White folks don't care what you do. That's right. The only way you gonna get up off of is on your own.
Right.
Okay? Get your own. Get your own. Look at Johnson told Martin Luther King of what? Yes, I know what y'all going through. Make me sign these civil rights papers. That's right. You got to make white folks sign anything. You got to make them do what you, not only make them be ready to go and walk in.
Yep.
That's right. We got to stop sitting out, be ready to go to war. Stop hypocriting in front of them folks. I ain't getting in your face and laughing when I have a need that must be met.
Yeah.
Let's start fighting. Listen here. One thing right now we could do overnight is come together on one accord.
Yes.
They'll back off from you. When you go to them, they'll give you what you want, or they'll look at, or they'll get out your face. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate appreciate it.
bless.
Appreciate it.
Brought some common sense
Great
to the
call.
table.
Great call. Let me tell you guys something. And this is something that I've been preaching and I've been saying probably as long as I've had this radio program. The day black folks stop arguing, cussing, fussing, tearing, teetering, doing all the stuff that we do to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have been through so much. That's why this whole show is about being resilient people. They can't do enough to destroy us. We keep bouncing back. I heard someone say one time, they're like cockroaches. Keep coming back, no matter what. And the reason people say that, because if they drop an atomic bomb and destroy all the people on the planet, the lowly cockroach is still going to be here. It's going to survive and outlive all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of people we are. Everybody got their ups and downs, but nobody went through 400 or 500 years of it like we have. And look at us. I'm proud of my people. I'm extremely proud of the accomplishments of black folks in America. But we can do better.
Always.
At some point in time, when we figure that part of it out, we're going to get what's due us. We ain't got to ask nobody for it. We can get it on our own. Next caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Johnson,
Yes.
and I really appreciate you bringing the attention to what has gone on in African history in America. However, one thing you're not considering is our mental, emotional, and psychological capacities. Yes, we have been physically resilient, but mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, we are broken. We haven't had the health care that we've needed. We haven't come together as a people to help each other recover from the mental and emotional and psychological distress that we're still currently under because of all the oppressions that we face on a daily basis. And I beg to differ with that gentleman that said that men went through war, because women had to see and experience their husbands and their sons go through all that while bearing children and having to go out in the field after delivering a baby and still working at the capacity that the slave master wanted them to. They were constantly beat by the slave master's wife. They went through a lot of stuff too, but when you see that stuff, it's just as damaging. It's just as detrimental as seeing someone physically go through that. And when you look up domestic violence, you will find out that verbal abuse is worse than physical abuse because it breaks your system down. So yes, we're resilient to a degree. We're resilient to a degree, but we have not come together. Our men have not come together. You know, we haven't come together to heal our communities because we've gone through so much. We've gone through so much, and we need to be healed from the inside out. So it's good to know this history, you know, but it's not good to point the finger. And the other thing is, while they were raping the women on the cruise ship, they were sodomizing the men. So you all are trying to figure out where homosexuality is coming from. Open your eyes. They raped the men too. We were chattel. They did whatever they wanted to do, however they wanted to do it. So homosexuality stems from that. Prostitution stems from that, from both the male and the female. All those kinds of things stem from the horrific treatment that we received as a people coming over to America on those ships. So we need to be more cognizant of what has really happened to us. Because that mental piece is serious. That emotional piece is serious. You know, and we're like in a pressure cooker. So you want us to function normally with emotional intelligence under this pressure cooker? Come on now. It's easy to point a finger when you're living in a glass house. It may have worked out for you and yours, but for the majority of us here in this country, it's been a living hell because we have not recovered from what happened during slavery or what happened after slavery. Because if the truth be told, we're still in a
think she had a good point there at the end on the mental slavery side and that mentality that exists today, because she was right on it. And that stuff, been through a lot, but there's still something there. And coming to today, full circle of, okay, now what?
Right.
Now we need to go forward.
Well, part of that whole process was
Good call.
was dehumanizing and deculturalizing the black folks. They had to get rid of your culture. They had to get rid of your humanity. They had to make you
Identity.
an animal.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got another call. And thank you for the call, caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello.
Yes, it's Margaret. I'm calling from the city.
Yes, ma'am.
We have come a mighty long way.
Yes, we have.
We are overcomers, as a people, and we are individuals. We are body, soul, and spirit. Yeah, you're talking about the body, the resilience, and all that, but we need to see who we are spiritually, body, soul, and spirit. That you are a person. You're not an African American. You are a human being as such. Yes, you came from there, but all of us, we got the Creator God, and we are created with the purpose the same. Hey, number of eyes, legs, toes, what anybody else has. The black man is a man. He wasn't treated like a man, but he's a man. So you just rise to that occasion and realize that, and what God intends for you to be, and realize you are there and act like it. Don't go out there, because these people are actually victimized who are heads of department, heads of city, heads of state,
Right.
Lawyers, attorneys, and then you're going to have somebody to tell them, well, you can't, you need an attorney, you need an accountant. Well, hell, we got people that are black and are colored that are intelligent, and that they did achieve those achievements. So we will rise to those achievements. Was there systematic racism? Yes, there was. It happened with that. I call it thinking. That's what happened. Right now, the critical race theory is critical, because what it wants to do, to me, it's the same critical as the daughters of Confederacy going around changing stuff in the book with a thing. So they're doing the very same thing. I'll give you one example of that now, because what they were saying, the slaves, they were happy slaves. They said they by the kings for them, and they did this. So concerning to the communists in Cuba, Black Lives Matter, I'm told, said, those Cuban people, they are, and since they're used to that, and that's what they want. Same lie told by different people.
Yep.
So now you put a word on it that it's Black Lives Matter. Black did it before, the Klan did it, or the Confederacy did it. Who's been the theme all along against the progress of people of color has been a certain party, a certain group of people, and they are not named Republicans. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a sharp caller.
Good call. And okay, we got another caller. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for that call. We got another
Excellent
call.
call, Margaret.
Welcome to Porch Talk Radio this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello? Caller?
Hello.
Yes?
Hi, this is Connie Burton. Peace and blessings.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering what type of human experiment would do such barbaric things to another human being and continue to do that same barbaric type of inhumane treatment for then another 245 years here in America, and then followed by that establish governmental laws and policies under the veil of Jim Crow, and then think of people going to be normal and be able to perform, still do not supposed to have any remnants of any of these after effects that we done seen in our foreparents, as well as the trauma that we're still dealing with today. Never, I don't know who Ted Bundy mama is. I never hear the whole white community having to come out and give an accounting of why a Dillard Root was created, when they're doing such horrendous things to our community that have not experienced the type of trauma that we have as a people. That's number one. And what I find so appalling is that we know it is being masked today in terms of a new America. It is only dressed up to continue the same present population. It is the same barbaric animal, their offspring, that is continuing this same mistreatment. So what the barbaric family and class need to be so thankful for is that we're not a people that is always eye to eye, that we internalize a lot of our pain. But an accounting will occur. I don't know who hand's going to give it. But all of these sins by the barbaric, they're going to have to be held responsible for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Connie. All right. So, and on that note, we're going to do the on this day, because if not, we will mess around and get into a conversation, and then the day will be gone, and we will miss it. Okay, on this day, July 17th, 1917. I know we got a couple calls, but we got to get through with business. Mm-hmm. So on this day, July 17th, 1917, the British royal family adopted the Windsor name. For some reason, I was under the belief that for the last couple of 100 years, all those royal families and Georges and Pauls and all that kind of stuff, had been around. But it was 1917 when this group of British royals adopted the name Windsor. I guess if you're royal, you can do what the hell you want.
Yeah.
All right. On this day, July 17th, 1941, Brigadier General Sobella directed architect G. Edward Brimston to have basic plans and architectural perspectives for an office building that would house 40,000 War Department employees on his desk by the following Monday. The building became known as the Pentagon. That was in 1941. On this day, July 17th in 1954, think about this. This next one is going to be a get you. Mm-hmm. I got you. 1954, the Brooklyn Dodgers made history as the first team with a majority of black players. The Brooklyn Dodgers in 1954 had more black players than whites.
Because they were better.
That's what they're saying.
There you go.
Okay, that was in 1954. Probably ain't happened since then. On this day, on July 17th, 1955, Disneyland, everybody's fun place to go, opened in Anaheim, California.
What year?
1955.
55, okay.
And last but not least, on this day, in 1987, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North and Rear Admiral John Poindexter began testifying in Congress at the Iran-Contra hearing. Gabriel.
All right, let's try and lighten the load here, folks. We've been talking about some heavy-duty stuff. I'm adopting a healthier lifestyle, so I parked and walked inside to buy my dozen donuts instead of using the drive-thru. Folks, every little bit helps. Now, also, remember, the government has caused the businesses to close and people to lose their jobs. Now that they're allowed to reopen, it's called creating jobs. Meanwhile, ICE says that if women are pregnant coming over the border, they get in for free. So pregnant women are now allowed in our country, no problem. They will not be detained. So if they're pregnant, they get in free. They got their anchor baby, free benefits. Life is good. Let's go on. I don't want to give up on anyone. I really don't. I love people. But if you believe you're going to be killed by fresh air, sunlight, and hugs, we have to move forward without you. Arrivederci. Legislative, executive, and judicial branches welcome big tech as the fourth branch of government. If you publish something or if you post something, Facebook or Instagram, if they don't like, they'll just shut you down. Gee, imagine if Trump would have done that. That'd be crazy. Meanwhile, the National Black Anthem will be played every NFL game now. The ratings are shooting down below that of CNN, and Nickelodeon now has higher ratings than the NFL. ICE
Talked about that. Los Angeles County is re-implementing indoor mask mandate regardless of vaccination status. In Los Angeles, everybody's got to wear a mask. Meanwhile, Fauciism, scare them into submission, profit from the panic, holding the world hostage with fear and paranoia. Meanwhile, we finally come to the President of the United States calls all of us without vaccines murderers. That's what he said. That was day before yesterday. The unvaccinated, they're killing people. Funny, even though the last week's deaths were more from vaccines than from COVID in America, just slight details. Whatever. Finally, I think I'm going to, we've talked about so much going on, guys. There's a lot happening right now in our country. I think we're down to, Eddie, we talked about this one. Senator Schumer unveils proposal to federally decriminalize marijuana.
Yeah.
You can toke all you want, but does that mean that the people that were put in for it now are released? The drug dealers?
They got to deal with that.
They got to release them. That means the drug dealers going to be about putting them drugs back out. Arizona had 74,000 mail-in ballots received. Oh, but there's no record of them being mailed out. Oops. As we kind of move on, folks, I think that, the Delta variant gains ground in the U.S. as outbreaks. Delta variant. You guys know what the Delta variant is. It's the third wave of BS. But, gee, it's only hitting the red states. Isn't that weird?
All right. Porch Talk Radio. Until next week, folks, same bad time, same bad station. And remember, we love you, Tampa Bay.
God bless.
See you. Bye-bye.